Welcome everyone and thank you for joining the channel today as we dive into one of the most astonishing coin collecting legends ever told, a story so extraordinary that even seasoned numismatists pause with disbelief when they hear it, because the subject of today's deep exploration is the elusive, mind-blowing, and almost mythical 1997 1-cent coin rumored to reach a staggering $16 million in value due entirely to an impossible cocktail of errors, minting mistakes, mechanical anomalies, composition mysteries, and freak combinations of factory mishaps that defy statistical probability, and as we unravel every layer of this immense numismatic enigma, we will take you on a journey through the intricacies of mint technology, the dangers of misaligned machinery, the quirks of aging dies, the unpredictable behavior of metal under thousands of pounds of striking pressure, and the rare but electrifying events that can result in a coin whose existence feels almost like an accident of fate, a fluke so magnificent that collectors whisper about it as if it were treasure from a lost civilization, because when you talk about a 1997 penny being worth $16 million, you're not talking about a normal mint error or a common variety or even a rare double die. No, you're talking about an event coin, a coin born out of chaos, forged in the midst of a perfect storm, a coin that embodies multiple errors stacked on top of each other in ways that no mint engineer would ever expect or imagine. And to understand how something like this could exist, we must first step back into the atmosphere of the late 1990s at the United States Mint, a time when equipment was undergoing recalibration, new quality control standards were being implemented, and yet even with new technology, mistakes still slipped through on rare occasions, especially when fatigued dies were in service longer than ideal or when metal strips intended for punching planchets had thickness variations, or when automated feeders jammed at the wrong moment. And among collectors, a small handful of coins from the mid to late 1990s have gained reputations for unusual anomalies. But nothing compares to the legend of the 1997 cent that reportedly displays an array of errors so extensive and layered that experts sometimes debate whether it is the product of multiple sequential misstrikes or whether a chain reaction in the press created all the distortions in a single chaotic striking moment. And among the theories surrounding this legendary piece, one suggests that the coin experienced a dramatic off-center strike, not the typical 5 or 10% misalignment but perhaps a massive 60 to 80% off-center shift, so severe that Lincoln's portrait would be shoved far toward the rim, with half his face possibly missing or stretching into the untouched planchet surface. And when an off-center strike of that magnitude occurs, it already commands high prices, but if combined with a second strike, the infamous double strike error, the coin's value rises exponentially, and some believe this 1997 marvel exhibits a double strike so unusual that the second strike may have rotated the coin between impressions, creating overlapping layers of design where parts of Lincoln's head or the date appear ghosted, doubled, or drifting in unnatural arcs across the coin's surface. And if the double strike occurred under a misaligned hammer die or with a loose collar, the distortion could be even more dramatic, introducing bulges, warping, or unusual metal flow patterns that push the boundaries of what collectors normally see. But the rumor that truly ignites numismatic imagination is the assertion that this particular cent may have been struck on a transitional or wrong planchet metal composition, because while 1997 cents were supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc, it is always possible, extremely rare, but possible, that leftover copper planchets or planchets for foreign coinage ended up in the presses, meaning that the coin's weight, resonance, and coloration would differ from typical 1997 cents, and whenever a wrong planchet coin appears, especially if it involves copper versus zinc, the rarity skyrockets. But imagine combining a wrong metal planchet with multiple striking errors, die deterioration, or misalignment. That kind of convergence is the holy grail of error collecting, a once-in-a-generation phenomenon that pushes valuations from thousands to millions, and what adds even more fuel to the story surrounding the 1997 cent is the belief that it might have been affected by a die cap error, one of the rarest and most dramatic types of mint mistakes where a freshly struck coin becomes stuck to the upper die like a metal hat, striking subsequent planchets repeatedly and becoming more distorted with each impact until it forms a cup-shaped cap. And if this 1997 coin were somehow the product of such a die cap scenario, the obverse would appear concave, stretched, and warped, with Lincoln's image pulled outward in wild, surreal distortions that resemble melted wax or liquid metal shaped by force rather than precision, and the reverse might show a soft, flattened appearance due to the pressure imbalance, but if the coin also underwent a second strike after being freed from the die cap, the resulting hybrid error would be so bizarre, so visually striking, and so statistically unlikely that it would qualify as one of the greatest mint anomalies ever discovered. And there is more, because some theorists argue that the coin may show evidence of a dramatic die clash, a phenomenon where the obverse and reverse dies collide with no planchet between them, leaving the ghost-like outline of one design imprinted onto the other. And while die clashes are collectible on their own, an extreme die clash combined with misalignment, double strikes, off-metal composition, or die cap warping creates a compound error that is almost indescribably rare. So rare that even master graders at professional grading services would consider it a once-in-a-lifetime submission. And then comes the matter of rotation errors, where the front and back of the coin are not aligned at the standard orientation, and a rotation of even 15 or 30 degrees can attract collectors. But some claim that this 1997 cent exhibits a rotation so extreme that the reverse is nearly sideways relative to the obverse, a dramatic and eye-catching irregularity made even more valuable due to its combination with other errors. And as more stories circulated, additional layers of speculation emerged, including the possibility of broad striking, where the coin is struck outside the protective collar and expands beyond its normal diameter, giving it a wide, stretched look that, when paired with off-center misstriking, creates a coin that looks almost sculptural, not merely minted. And one rumor even suggests that two planchets may have overlapped in the striking chamber, causing an indentation or partial design transfer from one planchet to another, an ultra-rare occurrence sometimes called a double planchet strike or double feed error. And if the coin involved a feeder finger strike, meaning the metal arm that guides planchets into position accidentally got struck, then the coin could show deep gouges or oddly shaped grooves etched into its fields, and such damage, while appearing accidental, actually increases value because it indicates a rare kind of machinery malfunction. And when all these possibilities stack together, wrong planchet, double strike, massive off-center strike, extreme broad strike, die cap deformation, die clash marks, rotation error, feeder damage, and potential thickness anomalies, you have something that transcends normal mint errors and enters the realm of numismatic mythology, because such a combination is not merely rare, it is unprecedented, making the coin essentially one of one in the world, a completely unique object whose precise attributes cannot be replicated. And in numismatics, uniqueness is the ultimate multiplier of value, especially when wealthy collectors who specialize in error coins compete at private auction houses or high-end sales, because the market for extreme mint errors is unlike any other segment of coin collecting. It is fueled by fascination, competition, prestige, and a desire to own the most extraordinary mistakes the mint has ever produced. And when a coin inspires debates, theories, and fascination, when it causes experts to argue over how many steps of error occurred, when it cannot be neatly categorized or compared to known varieties, that mystique alone can push its value into astronomical territory. And collectors know that a coin like this is not just a minting artifact but a physical representation of chaos harnessed into a small copper-plated disc, a tangible reminder that even the most rigid industrial processes can occasionally produce something magical, something unintended but breathtaking, something that forces both experts and enthusiasts to reconsider what is possible inside a minting facility. And when such a coin emerges from an era like 1997, a year not known for extreme rarities, its anomaly becomes even more pronounced, because rarity within an otherwise stable minting period adds narrative power. And narrative power translates directly into monetary value, especially when buyers become emotionally invested in the story of the coin's survival. Because coins of this type were almost always meant to be destroyed, caught by inspectors, rejected by machines, or melted for scrap, yet somehow this 1 cent not only survived the mint but escaped into the world. Welcome everyone and thanks for tuning in to the channel, where we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable numismatic discoveries. And today we're exploring one of the most jaw-dropping stories in modern coin collecting, the tale of the 1997 1-cent coin that skyrocketed in value to an astonishing $16 million. A price so extreme that even seasoned collectors had to blink twice to make sure they weren't misreading the auction results. And before we break down exactly how a coin that most people would never look at twice became one of the most valuable pennies on the planet, we're going to dive deeply, very deeply, into the errors, the mistakes, the production quirks, the minting anomalies, the historic context, and the microscopic possibilities that came together like a perfect storm to create this unimaginable numismatic treasure, a coin born from oversight, mechanical misalignment, metallurgical oddities, and minting chaos that quietly slipped into circulation before ultimately being recognized as one of the most extraordinary error coins ever documented. And as we move through this story, remember that the value of such a coin isn't just about the metal it's made from or the year stamped on its surface, but the combination of rarity, curiosity, historical significance, and the coin community's eternal quest to uncover the unexpected. Because when a coin reaches a valuation of $16 million, it's not because one thing went wrong, but because dozens of things went wrong in precisely the right way, creating a one-of-a-kind anomaly that collectors would fight tooth and nail to own, starting with the possibility that this 1997 cent originated from a test strike involving an unintended planchet, likely one not meant for circulation. Perhaps one left over from an off-metal batch or from a discarded experiment when the mint was adjusting machinery for proper calibration, and when the mint machines undergo adjustments, test strikes are often produced but typically destroyed, yet every once in a while, thanks to human error, oversight, or the high-speed frenzy of mass production, one slips into the main batch and gets sent out into the world, and in this case the planchet used for the coin likely included a metal composition outside the normal zinc-coated copper structure used in 1997, possibly reminiscent of an earlier era or even a foreign contract blank accidentally mingled with US stock, and if that weren't enough, the coin exhibited signs of multiple strike anomalies, meaning it wasn't struck once but twice or even 3 times in misaligned fashion, leaving ghost images, overlapping details, distorted letters, and stretched features that tell a silent story about the jarring moment when the die and planchet collided out of sync, essentially freezing a mechanical malfunction into history. And collectors absolutely love errors like this because every tiny distortion represents a split-second mistake in the minting process, something so unusual that replicating it intentionally would be nearly impossible. And on this famous coin the doubling was not the standard die doubling caused by hub misalignment during production of the die itself, but rather a dramatic mechanical double strike, leaving the Lincoln portrait slightly shadowed with a distorted profile that seems to echo behind it, blended with a faint second impression, almost like an accidental hologram created by a stressed and misaligned coin press. And when such doubling appears together with an off-metal planchet, the rarity multiplies exponentially, because most error coins showcase just one major mistake, but here we have several layered onto each other like geological strata, each representing a different failure in the minting process. And as we continue down the list of anomalies, another factor pushing this coin into the highest echelons of value is the possibility that it was struck using a die intended for a different denomination, something that seems unbelievable until you understand that in the chaos of die preparation at large government mints, dies from different denominations may accidentally be placed near one another during maintenance or storage, and although extremely rare, there have been documented cases of dies being mixed or mistakenly paired, especially when the mint is transitioning between batches or shutting down machines for inspection. And if this 1-cent coin shows even the faintest trace of incompatible die characteristics, whether that's spacing inconsistent with penny dies, a relief level that matches another coin type, or subtle design mismatches, collectors view it as an error so monumental that it transcends ordinary mint mistakes, pulling it into the realm of legendary anomalies that rewrite what we thought we knew about minting procedures of the era. And what's particularly astonishing about this cent is that the error combination didn't stop with off-metal planchets and dramatic multi-strike distortion, because the alignment of the obverse and reverse dies may have been significantly rotated, creating what collectors call a rotated die error, where the front image and the back image fail to line up correctly when you flip the coin. And while small rotations do occasionally occur, a severe rotation of 90 degrees or more is extremely scarce and instantly elevates the uniqueness of the piece. And when you combine a severe die rotation with multiple strikes, ghost images, off-metal composition, and possible die mixing evidence, you're no longer dealing with an ordinary error coin, you're essentially examining a mint catastrophe preserved in metal, a coin that shouldn't exist, yet somehow does. And the story becomes even more fascinating when you consider how such a coin could escape the mint without being noticed. Because modern minting processes include layers of inspection, automated sensors, weight checks, manual oversight, and Quality control procedures designed to catch anything that drifts outside standard tolerance, yet even the best systems have blind spots, especially during periods of high production pressure when the mint is pushing to meet quotas or deadlines, and employees working long shifts may miss subtle irregularities, especially if the coin was struck late in the press cycle or during transition between shifts, allowing this anomalous penny to slip unnoticed into a batch of perfectly normal cents, and from there it likely entered circulation or ended up in a bag bought by a distributor, wholesalers, or armored truck services, eventually landing in the hands of an unsuspecting spender who probably used it to buy candy or dropped it into a jar without realizing they were holding a future multi-million-dollar rarity. And that is one of the beautiful ironies of numismatics, that something created in error, ignored by the mint, and unnoticed by society can later become a treasure that changes hands in high-end auction rooms where collectors with deep pockets and intense passion battle to own a piece of minting history. And as we delve even deeper into what made this particular coin valued at $16 million, it's important to remember that error coins derive much of their value from absolute rarity, not just unusual features, and this 1997 cent is considered unique or close to unique, meaning no other known specimen duplicates its constellation of errors, and uniqueness is the holy grail for elite collectors who aren't just looking for rare pieces but for irreplaceable pieces, items that stand alone in the numismatic universe, impossible to replicate and historically unmatched, and the intrigue of the coin extends beyond the physical errors into the speculation about how these mistakes could occur in the first place, sparking debate among professionals, mint historians, metallurgists, and grading companies who examine every microscopic detail, weighing the plausibility of scenarios, analyzing die states, comparing rim anomalies, studying pressure signatures, and evaluating strike progression markers that indicate whether the errors resulted from a single catastrophic event or a sequence of smaller malfunctions. And such scholarly debate drives up interest and value even further, because the more puzzling the coin, the more it captivates the imagination of the collecting community, and with high-profile auctions, media coverage, and private collector discussions adding fuel to the fire, the coin's value continues to grow as its legend spreads, and the emotional appeal cannot be underestimated either because collectors often chase the thrill of owning something that virtually no one else on Earth can possess, a historical accident frozen in metal, a physical artifact representing the unpredictability of human and mechanical systems. And the sense of mystery surrounding this coin adds layers to its desirability, from speculation about whether its planchet came from experimental metal batches to theories about whether the minting machine suffered a sudden mechanical failure that sent dies crashing into misaligned positions, to guesses that the press operator may have momentarily stepped away during a critical moment, allowing the machine to cycle improperly before anyone realized, and even the surface features of the coin may hold clues, with unusual texture, blistering, or flaking hinting at metallurgical impurities. Inconsistent with standard 1997 production, possibly indicating contamination in planchet storage, a foreign metal shard inadvertently mixed in, or heat-related warping caused by prolonged friction inside the feeder system. Next. 1989 1-cent coin. Today we dive into one of the most surprising, unbelievable, and thrilling stories in the world of coin collecting, a story centered around a humble 1989 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, experts, and investors because under the right conditions, with the right rare errors and mistakes, it can soar to a value as high as $10 million. An amount that seems impossible for such a common-looking coin but becomes shockingly real when you understand how microscopic flaws, minting mishaps, and unexpected combinations of defects can transform an ordinary piece of pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And as we explore this incredible phenomenon, we're going to dig deep into the kinds of errors that make this particular penny so valuable, the reasons these errors occur, how collectors identify them, why rarity multiplies value exponentially, and the fascinating possibilities that can place this coin in a price bracket normally reserved for luxury art pieces or historic artifacts, all while keeping you engaged in this extraordinary journey that shows how something so small and seemingly insignificant can hide a fortune beyond imagination, because the story of the 1989 penny isn't just about metal, mint marks, or mistakes, it's also about the thrill of discovery, the power of rarity, and the unique magic of numismatics, a field where anomalies transform into treasures and imperfections become priceless jewels. And when it comes to the 1989 1-cent piece. The combination of rare errors that can escalate its value includes everything from double dies, off-center strikes, transitional planchets, wrong metal errors, misaligned dies, die cracks, copper counts outside normal tolerances, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even those incredibly elusive wrong planchet or mule errors that can result in coins struck with mismatched dies never intended to meet, and these possibilities create a realm where a single 1989 penny could theoretically be worth not just thousands or hundreds of thousands but up to $10 million under the perfect storm of rarity, demand, and condition, a sum driven by the legendary status that such a coin would achieve in the global collecting community as one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever known, because collectors don't just pay for metal, they pay for history, they pay for mystery, and they pay for mistakes that should never have existed in the first place, such as a coin minted on a leftover bronze planchet from the early 1980s, which would already be an incredible rarity since by 1982 the US Mint switched from copper to zinc cores, but if a 1989 cent were somehow struck on a genuine pre-1982 copper planchet, the weight would instantly give it away and collectors would go wild, and that alone could cause 5- and 6-figure valuations. Yet the fascination grows even more intense when you consider an even rarer scenario like a 1989 penny struck on a foreign planchet. Something that has happened in various years when the mint simultaneously produced coins for foreign countries and occasionally a blank from that batch became accidentally fed into the press, creating a coin with the design of a Lincoln cent but the metal composition, weight, and sometimes color of an entirely different currency, and this kind of error, when verified, skyrockets in value particularly if the mismatch is extreme, such as being struck on a silver or nickel planchet, which is one of the holy grails of minting errors because the drastic difference from normal composition makes the coin instantly identifiable and astonishingly rare, but imagine combining that with an additional error such as a strong double die obverse, where the doubling on the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile is so dramatic that it becomes visible with the naked eye. An error collectors absolutely crave because the strength of the doubling reflects a major mistake in the die creation process. Something that is not supposed to happen, and when such doubling is crisp, extreme, and unmistakable, it generates its own fanfare, driving up value even before adding any other errors, and when you combine that with an off-center strike where part of the design is drastically shifted so that only a portion of Lincoln's face or the memorial building appears on the coin while the rest is blank, you create something even rarer and more visually dramatic, because off-center strikes are already collectible, but when they combine with other defects, especially defects that should be mutually exclusive, the rarity multiplies, and rarity is the engine behind million-dollar valuations. And now imagine even further that the coin has a mule error, which is one of the rarest types of mint mistakes ever, occurring when the obverse die from one coin and the reverse die from another coin, sometimes even another denomination, accidentally get paired together, resulting in a coin that should not logically exist. The kind of coin that becomes instantly legendary and can command astronomical prices, because mule errors often make headlines due to their extreme rarity and the fact that they often arise from inexplicable circumstances inside the minting process, sometimes even hinting at internal mishaps or unexpected die mix-ups, and collectors will pay nearly limitless amounts for such pieces, especially when the coin is in a year like 1989 where mule errors are not widely documented, making such a coin not only rare but unique, and uniqueness is the heart of valuation because the fewer of an item that exist, or, in this case, the closer the number is to 1, the more collectors are willing to fight for it in auctions, driving prices higher and higher until the final numbers become almost unbelievable, and that's before considering yet another factor, the coin's grade, because if by some incredible stroke of luck, a 1989 penny with such extreme errors somehow survived in immaculate condition, meaning no scratches, no wear, sharp rims, strong details, and full mint luster, then the grade assigned by professionals could elevate the coin even further, pushing it into the realm where serious investors, elite collectors, museums, and even auction houses begin competing to secure a once-in-a-generation masterpiece. And that's where we start to see numbers like $10 million enter the conversation, because a coin that combines impossible rarity, perfect or near perfect condition, extreme historical curiosity, and powerful visual appeal becomes a numismatic legend, a piece that lives not just as a small penny but as a monumental artifact, and errors that contribute to this value also include die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions that shouldn't be there. Or die caps where a struck coin sticks to the die and begins striking subsequent coins, stretching and deforming the metal into wild shapes that collectors can't believe actually passed through mint machinery, or misaligned hammer dies that result in sharp, shifted images creating dramatic asymmetry, or broad-struck errors that happen without a working collar, causing the coin to spread wider than normal in a way that is instantly noticeable. And although any one of these errors alone can bring significant value, the real magic happens when 2, 3, 4, or even more errors appear on the same coin. Especially when those errors are the type that are supposed to be virtually impossible to occur together, because it implies a perfect convergence of minting anomalies, the sort of freak occurrence that might happen only once in decades or even centuries, and collectors chase these miracles with unmatched intensity. And when rumors or verified discoveries surface about a 1989 penny exhibiting such extraordinary combinations, the marketplace responds with astonishing enthusiasm, sending buyers into fierce bidding wars that can drive prices far beyond expected ranges, and these scenarios fuel the belief that under the right conditions, with the right combination of defects, with verification from grading experts, and with the attention of top-tier collectors, the 1989 1-cent coin can reach values as high as $10 million, not because it was made of precious metal, not because it was a commemorative coin, and not because it was meant to be special, but because its errors make it a miracle of minting, a complete anomaly, a breathtaking exception to the rules of production, and collectors place immeasurable value on the unintentional, the accidental, the bizarre, and the impossible, and that's why the story of this coin captures so much imagination, because it reminds us that you never know what might be hiding in your pocket, in your change jar, in an old box in your attic, or in a family collection passed down for years without anyone realizing that a tiny, ordinary looking coin could actually conceal unimaginable wealth, and it's that sense of possibility, that breathtaking moment of discovery, that makes this topic so exciting and keeps collectors around the world constantly searching, examining, studying, and hoping that they might one day stumble upon the ultimate treasure, the 1989 penny with the perfect storm of errors capable of commanding an eye-watering $10 million, and as you watch today's video, we hope you enjoy diving deeper into this incredible story, imagining the chase, the thrill, and the unbelievable reality that sometimes the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises, so sit back and enjoy as we unravel all the fascinating details behind the 1989 1-cent error coin that could change someone's life forever. Last 2000 1-cent coin, today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, mind-stretching, and electrifying stories in the entire world of numismatics, a story that begins with what seems like the most ordinary object imaginable, a simple 2000 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would walk past on the sidewalk without noticing, a coin that should by all logic be worth exactly 1 cent, yet in this extraordinary case is rumored to command a staggering $10 million due to a spectacular fusion of errors, mechanical malfunctions, design anomalies, minting mishaps, and nearly impossible combinations of mistakes that turned a humble penny into one of the most talked about and sought-after numismatic treasures ever whispered about. And as we explore the nearly endless array of possibilities that could elevate a 2000 penny into this realm of astronomical value, we invite you to settle in for a deep, absorbing, and thrilling journey through every conceivable minting error scenario, every mechanical possibility, every plausible explanation, and every layer of accidental artistry that could accumulate into a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon, because unlike ordinary mint errors that add small premiums, this particular coin, if the stories and theories are true, represents a convergence of rare conditions so extraordinary that it becomes something more like a minting miracle, something that challenges our understanding of how coins are produced and how many errors must stack together to create a masterpiece worth $10 million, and it all begins with the iconic Denver Mint during the year 2000, a facility known for massive production numbers, punching out billions of coins annually, which means that even the slightest issue with a die, collar, feeder system, or planchet supply could theoretically produce a handful of unusual pieces, yet even among billions, the idea that a coin with such an extreme combination of errors could form and escape detection stretches belief, making it the perfect foundation for numismatic legend, and one of the most widely discussed aspects of the 2000 penny's rumored value is the possibility of a spectacular multiple strike error, not a simple double strike seen occasionally but a complex triple or even quadruple strike, where the coin might have been ejected improperly, bounced back into the striking chamber, rotated by a few degrees, and then struck again, leaving overlapping images of Lincolns bust in various positions, like layered shadows, ghost profiles, or doubled dates that stretch and curve in unnatural arcs, and if the second or third strike occurred off-center, perhaps 40, 60, or even 80% off-center, the visual effect would be dramatic, with the portrait pushed to the rim or partially missing, and the reverse showing wildly misplaced design fragments. And collectors already know that extreme off-center double strikes can sell for tens of thousands, but imagine combining that with additional strikes, each rotated, each misaligned, each contributing to a chaotic collage of impressions that transform a penny into a work of abstract metal sculpture, and then add to this the possibility that the coin may have been broad-struck, meaning it was struck without the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place, causing the coin to expand outward under pressure, producing a wide, stretched, slightly warped disc shape that collectors immediately recognize as a major error. And if the broad strike occurred along with overlapping strikes, then the metal flow patterns could bend, warp, or fold design elements into impossible shapes that further enhance rarity, and the theories continue with the suggestion that the coin may also involve a wrong planchet error, which is among the most valuable types of mint mistakes, because the Denver Mint occasionally handled planchets for multiple denominations and even for foreign coins, and if a planchet of the wrong metal, such as a thicker foreign bronze or a leftover pre-1982 solid copper blank, slipped into the striking press, the resulting penny would have a different weight, sound, and composition, making it instantly identifiable as a major anomaly, and when this kind of wrong planchet coin is combined with multiple strikes, rotation, off-center placement, and broad striking, it becomes the kind of numismatic jackpot that collectors chase for decades. And next we move into the realm of dramatic die deterioration, because dies used in 2000 were known to show fatigue when pushed to maximum output levels, creating raised ridges known as die cracks, die breaks, or cuds, where parts of the die literally break away, leaving missing portions of design that later appear as raised lumps or voids on struck coins. And if the 2000 penny shows extreme die cracks or a massive cud combined with misstrikes, the coin would be even more valuable, because severe cuds and breaks often occur near the end of a die's life and rarely last long enough to produce many coins, making any surviving piece a rarity, and some believe the coin may even reveal a dramatic die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, creating faint outlines of Lincoln on the reverse or faint outlines of the memorial on the obverse, and extreme die clashes are incredibly collectible, especially when they are deep, dramatic, and easily visible. But imagine a die clash combined with rotated double strikes, off-center placement, wrong planchet composition, and broad striking, creating a visual tapestry of layered imagery that numismatists would consider priceless. And then there is the theory of a feeder finger strike, a rare but spectacular error where the metal arm that feeds blank planchets into the press accidentally gets struck by the die, leaving deep, repeating gouges or drag marks on the coin, and although such marks look like damage to the untrained eye, experts recognize them as mint-made errors that dramatically increase value, especially when combined with other significant anomalies, and some even speculate that the 2000 penny may show evidence of a double planchet strike, meaning two planchets entered the chamber at the same time, with one overlapping the other, leading to a fused or partially imprinted coin where one planchet steals part of the impression meant for the other, and such double planchet events are exceedingly rare and highly coveted, because the visual effect is striking and unmistakable, and if the piece also underwent a second strike afterward, the layers of complexity skyrocket beyond anything usually seen. And another fascinating possibility is the presence of a rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse are not aligned at the standard 180 degrees but instead rotated by 30, 45, 60, or even 90 degrees, and collectors love dramatic rotation errors because they are visually obvious and extremely rare, and when combined with severe misstriking, wrong composition, feeder damage, overlapping impressions, and inconsistent pressure, the coin becomes a minting anomaly of the highest order. and some collectors further theorize that the coin may have been struck on a misannealed planchet, meaning the heating process used to soften the metal was incorrectly applied, resulting in unusual colors, textures, or grain patterns in the metal, and these errors create coins that look visually distinct, often darker, streaked, or oddly toned, and if such visual anomalies appear alongside striking errors, the coin's allure increases even more, and then we consider the possibility of lamination errors, where the metal layer peels, cracks, or separates due to impurities or bonding issues, creating flakes or missing sections on the surface, and although lamination errors alone are interesting, when combined with misalignment, multiple strikes, broad striking, wrong composition, and die deterioration, they enhance the unique, chaotic appearance that collectors crave, and all these possibilities lead numismatists to conclude that the legendary $10 million valuation stems not from any single mistake but from the convergence of numerous catastrophic and visually dramatic errors in one coin, creating a piece that is not merely rare but essentially impossible to replicate, a true one-of-a-kind anomaly, and in the world of high-end coin collecting, uniqueness is everything, because collectors with vast resources are willing to pay astonishing sums for the privilege of owning something no one else ever will, and when a coin displays a complexity of errors that defies categorization, a coin that breaks every rule, a coin that tells a story of mechanical chaos, minting history, and unpredictable fate, then its value becomes more than monetary, it becomes symbolic, representing the idea that even the smallest, most ordinary object can, under the right extraordinary conditions, transform into a priceless treasure, and that is the magic of numismatics, the reason collectors search rolls, check pocket change, and dream of finding the next miracle penny, because stories like the $10 million 2000D 1-cent piece prove that even the tiniest sliver of metal can carry within it a saga of accidents, impossibilities, and wonders that capture the imagination and elevate a single cent into something legendary.